Good morning and welcome back. This is Don Hendry with Hendry Parker Law Firm. I'm here with Kris Parker, and we are giving another edition of our podcast, which are legal shorts where we deal with different legal issues and try and touch on them a little bit so we can shed some light for you and give you a little bit of direction on where to go.
Legal briefs, we call them.
Legal briefs.
And today we're going to talk a little bit about probation. Doesn't sound fun.
It's not.
A lot of people, they think probation is good because as opposed to a jail sentence, it sounds pretty good, right?
It sounds very good compared to going to the pokey.
Yeah. So we've had clients before who were offered 10 days in jail as opposed to 1 year probation or 2 years probation or maybe even 5 years probation if it's a felony. Now, here's the problem. If you get on probation, sometimes it's very difficult to adhere to the probation conditions.
And that's certainly true. And different kinds of probations have different requirements, some far more stringent than others. Probably the least intrusive probation is going to be misdemeanor probation or county court probation.
Now, if you are charged with a second-degree misdemeanor, which is the lowest misdemeanor, the least serious misdemeanor or least serious crime that you can commit, how much probation could the state give you if they wanted to max you out?
A maximum of 6 months.
6 months probation. So now, if you take probation and you fail at probation, you violate probation, then you're going to go in front of a judge for a violation of probation hearing, and the judge is going to make a decision whether or not you violate probation. Now, in that decision that the judge making is whether or not you violate probation, they have a much lower standard of proof to prove that, or standard of evidence to prove that you violated. So, for instance, if you were going in for the actual crime and you had trial, the state would have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt, which is a very high level. If you go in for a violation of probation, the state only has to prove beyond the preponderance of the evidence.
Which means, 51% likely you did it, 49% likely you didn't do it. The judge could find that you violated your probation.
Do you get a jury for that?
You certainly do not.
You do not get a jury for that. So, if I go into probation, let's get into examples. I get probation on a DUI, and I take probation, which normally is involved in a DUI. And I violate my probation. And the way I violate my probation is I come in and I take a drug test and it's positive for marijuana. Okay, marijuana, although considered sometimes legal here medically, does not mean you can do that while you're on probation. And if they tell you no drugs, that means marijuana too. So a lot of people come in, they P-test positive for marijuana or THC, and they violate it. What happens next?
What happens next, if it's a misdemeanor case, as Kris said, a DUI, then if there's a violation of probation, your probation officer has the discretion right then and there in his office to take you into custody and take you to jail. Sometimes they will let you leave. They will put an affidavit towards the judge. They will fill out an affidavit said that you did whatever to violate your probation. The judge will look at it and decide whether or not to sign a warrant for violating your probation. Now, if the judge signs the warrant, they can give you a bond, meaning that if you pay a certain amount of money, you can get out of jail while your violation of probation is pending. Or they can choose to give you no bond, meaning you sit in jail until your case is resolved. Now, in misdemeanor cases, more often than not, the judge is going to give you a bond. Now, if you are unfortunate enough to violate felony probation, the odds are you are going to sit in jail until that probation violation has been resolved.
But isn't it true that if you go in and you get arrested, you get booked, and you go see a judge the next morning, the judge that you see the next morning is not going to probably be the judge that issued you the probation?
No.
And put you on probation. So the judge that sees you, the duty judge, might say, hey, I don't want to issue you a bond. This is not my probation. It's not my case. I don't want to mess with this other judges. So you may have to sit there till the other judge comes in. If it's a weekend, you might have to wait till Monday.
Oh, wait till Monday. But that's a great scenario for most people who are in jail on a no bond probation warrant. Many times in a felony case, it's going to be 4 to 6 weeks before you get in front of the judge. So if you're on probation, you have a job, you have a life, you have bills. You end up spending 4 to 6 weeks in jail before you can even see a judge. It can ruin everything.
Probation is a cycle that you can get in that puts you in the system and keeps you in the system. Rounds and rounds and rounds. There's a lot of people that are great candidates for probation, people who have a good support network of family and friends that are going to keep on them and help them and make sure that they follow up on things. Some people are a lot more vigilant than others. If you're not indigent, you probably have less things to worry about. If you're looking
Right.
for your next meal and that's what you're doing all day, or you're working 3 jobs and you're taking care of kids, probation might not be for you because you don't have the time to put into probation because it's very hard. It costs a lot of money, it takes a lot of time, and it takes a lot of your focus. So if you can't do it, don't do it. And the thing is, if you fail at probation, your jail time is likely going to be a lot more than it would be if you just took jail on the front end. Nobody wants to go to jail.
Right.
But you got to weigh your options here.
And many times, I would probably say the majority of folks that are on felony probation have some sort of drug issue, whether they're on probation for drug charges themselves, possession of oxycodone, possession of heroin, possession of cocaine. Generally, those people have big issues. And if they go on probation and they're not clean, they will violate their probation and they will sit in jail and they will possibly go to prison. So if you have a drug problem, there is an enhanced type of probation that the state is often going to offer you, which is drug offender probation, which is more serious and it's also provides more obstacles than regular felony probation. Drug offender probation, you typically have a curfew from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. You do random drug screens. You do drug counseling. You take drug classes. And it's just a much more intense level of supervision. And if you're not diligent and you're not clean and you're not doing well, you're going to end up back in jail.
You're setting yourself up for a much larger jail sentence because you're really getting a second chance and you're screwing that second chance up and then you're getting sentenced again.
Right.
And this random drug tests are no joke, these drug offender probation, because it's not one of these things where, well, they may drug test me once every couple of months. No, you call in each week, and a lot of times they do the collar-coded testing where if they pick your collar, you go in. So you're doing a lot of drug screening, and they're very concerned about you. Now, I'm going to go over the 5 different kinds of probation that there are, from the least serious to the most serious. The first one is your standard probation.
Right.
This is like misdemeanor probation. You're going to have to report once a month. You're going to have some conditions that you have to comply with, such as community service hours, drug tests, and all that stuff. The second one is administrative probation. This is where you might live out of town. You come down to Florida to visit, or you're from another county. They let you not report, but report with paper only.
Right.
Meaning you can fill it out.
Which is generally the least onerous, the least difficult kind of probation to comply with. Basically, don't get in any trouble, pay whatever fees, fines, and costs you have, and you're going to sail through administrative probation.
And the next one is the one that Don's already mentioned. That's your drug offender probation. If the judge feels like you have a drug problem, or this crime that you allegedly committed involved any type of drug activity, they're going to put you on drug offender probation, and you're going to have to not only go through regular probation, but you're going to have to be tested a lot. You're going to have to go through treatment programs, and you're going to have to prove to the court that you're ready to get back into being a contributing member of society and drug-free.
Right. And probably the 2 most difficult kinds of probation to complete: community control and sex offender probation.
Yeah, sexual probation is really no joke. Sex offender probation. These are people who are charged with sex crimes. They have to stick to a treatment plan. They have to have a surveillance program where someone is surveying them all the time. I mean, this is very serious, as it should be.
And they're wearing a GPS monitor. There are certain restrictions to where they can live within so many feet of a school, of a park, of a daycare facility. Those folks aren't allowed to live there. And if they violate probation while on sex offender probation, there's a darn good chance they're going to end up in prison, which is where no one wants to be.
You do not want to be on sex offender probation. That goes without saying. But you want to do everything you can do to not be registered as a sex offender. The number one way of doing that is do not commit a sex offense. But some people are charged with offenses that aren't necessarily, maybe should not be considered sex offenses, and that's what we can help you fight for.
Right.
The last one is community control. This is also known as house arrest.
Yeah, community control is a much more pleasant name than house arrest, but essentially you are on a type of probation, a very stringent type of probation. You cannot leave your home during this period of probation, except for a few necessities. You can go to the grocery store if you specifically tell your probation officer when you're going to be going. You can go to the doctor, you can go to your job, and you can go to church. Other than that, you can't leave your house. If you're out and about while on house arrest and either your probation officer finds out about it or you come in contact with the police, they run your name, they find out you're on house arrest and you're not out there for any good reason, you're going to jail and probably prison. So don't violate your community control.
Probation is an alternative sentencing system as an alternative to putting you in the pokey. You can go to jail, and jail is terrible. There is absolutely no doubt about that. But we often see clients who turn down 10 days of jail for several years of probation. And I would never encourage that. I don't want my clients to ever go to jail. But when a crime is serious enough to where a little bit of jail will definitely, can top a lot of probation. Now, if you're on probation, Don, for 1 month and you violate, and the judge finds that you violated your probation, how long could the judge possibly sentence you to jail?
Well, if it's a third-degree felony, you're on probation for 1 month and you violate it in a way that the court finds as willful and substantial, meaning that you intended to do it and you did it, you could go to jail for 5 years. Now, is that the likely outcome? Maybe not, but it's a possibility. So probation is a very, very serious thing that you have to make sure you dot all your T's and...
Yeah, I mean, in that situation, say you violated by just absconding.
Right.
You just left town. You were like, you know what? I didn't get jail. I'm free. I'm getting out of here. They'll never find me. I'm going to Washington. So you've absconded. You've basically thrown the middle finger up to the court and said, peace. I'm out of here. I'm gone. I'm not worried about it. A warrant will go out for your arrest for violating your probation, and eventually, you will get pulled over or stopped. That warrant will come to fruition, and you will get transported back to this state from wherever you were, and you will have to go in front of a judge knowing that you just basically flipped off the judge and the system. And it's very likely at that point you're going to do a couple of years.
Right. And if and those, what Chris just mentioned, absconding, just leaving and blowing everything off, absconding and picking up new criminal charges are probably the worst way to violate probation. Those are the two worst ways. So if you're on probation for a drug offense and a month later you pick up another drug offense, well, the court probably is not going to give you any more line in which to hang yourself.
Probation is no joke, and you should consider it as an option in your sentencing if you have to, but you should also consider other alternatives because it is an instrument that could put you into the system for a very long time and keep you in there, and it costs a lot of money, and sometimes it's not worth it, sometimes it is, but sometimes you need attorneys to sit down and lay these different options out for you and let you know what pitfalls that you could come to in the situation of probation, and that's what we're here for. And you can give us a call at 727-205-5555, and we'd be happy to talk to you about several different sentencing options if we were to take a plea. And you can go to our website, get some information as well,
which is www.hendryparker.com, and get in touch with us and we'll go over your options and figure out a plan that best works for you.
Free consultations. Come on down and see us.
Thanks.
And